Hello and welcome to Inside Rugby. My name is Mark, and in this video I'm going to be doing a full summary of the game between Scotland and France played at Murrayfield in the weekend. Everyone, great to have you with me. Welcome to Inside Rugby. And yes, there was a big game played at that beautiful stadium in Edinburgh over the weekend at Murrayfield between Scotland and France. Now it was interesting heading into this game because Gregor Townsend decided to make 13 changes to his team that played against Italy last, and the French coach Fabian decided to put a young team in against this Scottish team. So we're seeing an experimental young team from France go up against probably one of the strongest teams that Scotland could put out. And it was really interesting from the get-go because France has an enormous amount of talent, and it was going to be a fantastic tussle, that's for sure. Well, France hit the ground running literally, and they absolutely played superb rugby in the opening stanza of this game. All of the flair and panache that we expect from French rugby teams was on display in the opening minutes of the game at Murrayfield, and it wasn't long before the French started to show their dominance. But before that, Finn Russell, the captain of the team today, playing his 70th Test cap for Scotland, got a penalty goal. But after Russell had got that penalty goal, it was all France, and attack after attack. They opened up a fantastic attack down the right-hand side. Jalabert from Gathie and inside to Coulard, who got a fantastic try next to the post, and the French converted that try to go ahead 7 points to 3. We didn't have to wait much longer before the French continued their raid, and it was just such impressive rugby from this young French team. They were driving the Scottish team all over the field, but when they opened it up to their backs, they were explosive, spontaneous, and they were super fast as well. So we didn't have to wait long before out down the left-hand side, Barry went through a gap and scored a try that pretty much looked like something they do on the training pitch, and the Scottish heads started to go down, and the crowd were a little bit stunned, I think, at Murrayfield with this onslaught that was coming from the French. France kept up the power and the possession in that first half, and it wasn't long before they were raiding the Scottish line once again. This time a rolling maul saw Woki go over to score a try, and it really capped off a fantastic French first half. And really everybody was thinking, who was watching this game, was there any way back into this game for Scotland? It didn't look like it, and it was becoming a little bit embarrassing. As I said, Scotland had put out a very strong team to play against this experimental French team. So I'm sure going into half-time, Fabian would have been very happy with the way that his young guns were going, and probably just asked them to carry on that momentum for the second half. So it was 21 points to 3 at half-time, and only Finn Russell's penalty was all that Scotland had to show in the first half. So coming out in the second half, it wasn't long before we see Scotland putting on some pressure, getting some possession finally, and being able to do something. Now, Darcy Graham on the wing for Scotland has been playing some fantastic rugby of late, scoring tries in every game that he plays in. And it was from a great cross-field kick from Finn Russell that Darcy pounced on the ball and scored Scotland's first try in this game. It was a brilliant move from Scotland, well-executed kick from Finn Russell, and Darcy Graham was just able to beat his opponent to the ball and score a wonderful try, and this really got some momentum going for Scotland. Now, unfortunately, Xander Fagerson got sent off with a yellow card, and it was shortly after that, through the bunker review, that the yellow card was changed to a red card. A big problem for Scotland, not only for this game, but also moving forward with their World Cup campaign. Fagerson has been sent off before for a similar incident, and when he goes up against the disciplinary panel, I expect them to show no mercy against him. So I think Gregor Townsend's going to be sweating over that Xander Fagerson problem that he's got coming up. However, Scotland were down to 14 men, and it was going to be a test of their courage and tenacity in this game if they were going to be able to keep it going. And keep it going they did, and it was really a game of two halves, this game, because The French team that we saw in the first half, they basically vanished, and we saw them being replaced by the Scottish team doing exactly to them what they had done to Scotland in the first half. Scotland were rampaging down the field in different attacks and also using great strategic kicking from Finn Russell in this game. And as the second half went on, the Scottish momentum continued. Now, after one of the Scottish repetitive raids towards the French line, Schoeman went over for a try, the second one for Scotland, and it really brought them back into this game. And you could just tell that the momentum in this game was changing, even though that Ferguson had been sent off. I thought that Finn Russell was controlling the game really well. Unfortunately, White, halfback for Scotland, went off with an ankle injury. And again, this will be something that's making Gregor Townsend a little bit nervous as we get closer to the World Cup. White is obviously one of their key picks in that halfback position, and we're hoping to hear that ankle injury is not too bad for him to be able to carry on. It's a shame when these injuries so close to the World Cup have the potential of keeping players out of the World Cup. It is obviously a pinnacle opportunity for their careers, and it's not good to see any player from any team being kept out of the World Cup because of an injury. So we hope White is good to go forward. So after that try by Schoeman, it gave the Scottish forwards some emphasis, and it really gave them an opportunity to keep doing these rolling mauls against the French pack, who appeared to be going backwards. And it wasn't long before Cherry, the replacement who had come on, did exactly the same thing down the right hand side of the pitch, dived over the line and scored the third try for Scotland. Those three tries together, and then we had two penalty kicks from Finn Russell that were successful, and we had Scotland out to 25 points to 21. A fantastic comeback in the second half from Scotland. Probably thought at half time that they needed a good rev up from Gregor Townsend, and a lot of the players said that's exactly what they got. I thought across the park Scotland were really, really good in that second half. We saw Duhan van der Merwe doing some really good breaks. Every time he got the ball, he was on the front foot, he was over the gain line and setting up the ball, really good for their backs. Darcy also played really well. Darcy Graham on the wing, scoring that try, of course, but he was also good in making breaks in other parts of the field. I thought Finn Russell controlled the game well in the second half from fly half and really showed his experience over those 70 caps to be leading the Scottish team around the field. And it's interesting that, you know, him and Townsend weren't talking that long ago, and now Finn Russell's the captain of Scotland, so he's really turned his emphasis around for the Scottish team and also the fortunes of the Scottish team. He's been really instrumental in that. Blair Kinghorn at fullback was big, strong, made some really good runs in both halves of this game. I think he was one of the only Scottish players that played well in the first half, and he returned the ball from fullback very, very dynamically. You know, he's 6'5", this guy at fullback, and he comes into the line, a lot of pace and a lot of strength. So he did some very, very good things in this game, and I think Scotland have a really good fullback in him heading into the World Cup this year. No doubt that before the game, if Fabian Gaultier was told that they were going to lose 25-21 to the strong Scottish team, he may have taken that, but given the fact they had a lead of 21 points to 3 at half-time, I think they would have been really disappointed that Scotland got back into this game. But this was really good experience for this young French team to be playing under this type of pressure, and having a team like Scotland coming back at you in the second half is always a good thing to experience when it's not a World Cup game. And I think that's one of the reasons these warm-up games are really interesting, because they give teams the opportunities to have this kind of experience when there's nothing really at stake other than their position in the World Cup team. And of course, that's a very big thing. So I think Gaultier's team will go away and have a look at that second half and see what they could have done better to keep the momentum of the first half going. The two teams are going to meet again in Saint Etienne in France next weekend. So it's going to be really good to see what Gaultier does with his team. Is he going to put some of these young guys back in to have another crack at Scotland, or is he going to throw in his leading team with Anton Dupont in at halfback, leading them around the field? So I thought it was a really great game of rugby. Two halves that were extremely different. France dominated, were on top in the first half, played some outstanding spontaneous rugby, and that's what we expect from all French teams. They showed that this young team has a lot of potential, and they're going to be very, very dangerous once they get some experience. For Scotland, they came back extremely well in the second half, And pretty much like what Wales did to England, they became dominant, and with them being down to 14 men, it was really a test of their resolve as well and their physical capability. So obviously the Scottish team is in good shape. So they'll be worried about disciplinary cautions coming ahead for Ferguson, but also injury to White. That's going to be the biggest takeaways from this game for Scotland away from the field. But I think Gregor, Townsend, and the momentum that Scotland have got going now into this French game next weekend, it's going to be a really interesting battle in France to see who comes out on top. So let me know what you think of this game between Scotland and France played in Murrayfield. I thought it was a really, really good game of rugby, entertaining game for two different reasons through the two different halves. Who do you think stood out for the French team? They have a lot of flair in that team, there's no doubt about it. And do you think Scotland can do something big at the Rugby World Cup this year? They've got a really interesting group to get out of, so we'll have to do some analysis of that going forward. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and follow my journey as we head into the rest of the warm-up games before the World Cup. And on September the 8th, we start the Rugby World Cup 2023, and I'm going to be following all those games through the whole 7 weeks of what's going to be an exciting pinnacle of rugby this year. Thanks very much for watching my videos. Hope to see you back again really soon. Until then, stay safe, stay well, and enjoy your rugby. Bye for now.